Hi, it's Dwyer of DwyerCrime.blog. Also, always 1776.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, there is an excellent show, flawed, as we'll discuss, but excellent show on Netflix called The 24 Faces of Billy Milligan. Right? This is the first case in the United States where a defendant charged in a brutal sexual assault, in fact, it's a series of sexual assaults, was able to successfully plead insanity because of dissociative identity disorder, what we now refer to as multiple personality disorder. It's a very important case to know of. Again, the defendant's name was Billy Milligan. Now understand, the trial that took place dealt with the rapes of three women. Three different instances at The Ohio State University when Milligan was 22 years old, right? Here's the problem I have with the presentation made in the 24 Faces of Billy Milligan. First, it's very important to know, and they don't tell you this in the first episode, it's a series, that Milligan raped a woman before he started raping women at Ohio State. Right? Importantly, the show doesn't talk to her. Now, we understand that some rape victims might not want to come forward, right? Keep in mind, Milligan is convicted of raping a woman before he goes on the spree of raping three more at Ohio State, right? So we don't hear from the first rape victim. Here's where, to me, the presentation made by Netflix is unforgivable. They don't go over the interviews in the file as to what happened. Now, it's very important, right? Because understand, Milligan is one rape conviction in when, for the first time, we start hearing about multiple personalities, right? Understand, too, the woman that Milligan rapes was with a friend, right? She's out with a girlfriend. Milligan is out with his buddy. The four of them get together. The buddy goes off with the rape victim's friend. So let's just think about the number of people who interacted with Billy that night. His buddy, right? And understand, a buddy would know whether you have been different people around him, right? I couldn't imagine a close friend of someone with multiple personality disorder not having some inkling, especially when we're talking about the number of multiple personalities here. I'm surprised that the friend wouldn't have an inkling of Billy's multiple personalities. But understand, the Netflix show doesn't talk to the friend. It doesn't talk to the girlfriend of the rape victim. There's no mention of what either Billy's friend or the girlfriend of the rape victim recalls. Now, the claim is on the show that Billy doesn't remember what happened that night, presumably because he was in a different personality. Now, understand, that claim might be credible if Billy's by himself with the rape victim. I don't believe the claim is credible when there are two other people who were there that night? Let me also say, too, that there is no dialogue outside of Billy's family and one or two childhood friends. There's no dialogue with people from Billy's childhood as to whether they witnessed Billy having multiple personalities. Right? Understand, when it comes to Billy's family, his mother, who's seen on tapes, she might not be alive today, right? Obviously cares for her son, is going to say what she can to help her son beat serious rape allegations. Right? Billy's brother cares for his brother. Right? They speak with Billy's brother, and Billy's brother, of course, talks about their rough childhood. Now, I'm not here to say that Billy didn't go through a rough childhood. He certainly did. Right? There's violence in Billy's childhood. Let's just put it that way. Right? But understand, the brother wants to support Billy to the point where Billy, and we'll discuss this, later goes on the run, and the brother helps him. Now, let me just say this bluntly. There are a lot of people who wouldn't help a family member who is a multiple rapist. Right? I need for people to think about the victims here. There are 4 different women. 4. 1 earlier, 3 at Ohio State, who've been raped by this guy. Right? I'm positive that no matter how toxic Billy's childhood is, some family members are going to think about the victims and are going to realize that their sibling, the perpetrator, shouldn't be helped when trying to escape. Billy's brother featured on the show is not one of those individuals. Right? The show is presented from a very let's help Billy perspective. So I was a little bit amazed because Billy went to school as a kid. There would be teachers. There would be other students. There'd be childhood friends. You would imagine if Billy's personalities are as splintered as this show suggests, I'm positive there would be an 8th grade English teacher somewhere who would say, you know, some days he wouldn't respond to his name. Or, you know, he turned in these 3 tests and they were all in different handwriting. The show doesn't present anyone like that. As you watch the show, which is well made, you need to consider what's not being shown. Then you realize that the show, while well produced, leaves out a lot, isn't that well made. Let's continue. Understand that the crimes that Billy commits at Ohio State are well thought out. They're planned. Right? First of all, Billy's not a student at Ohio State. This isn't the kid who goes to college and then is walking around, it's stressful, suddenly he's someone else. Suddenly on an impulse, he approaches a woman and things go too far. That's not this case. Understand, Billy's not a student. understand that Billy has a gun on him. Right? The gun is very important. Folks, these Ohio State rapes are not spur of the moment. This is a hunter. He's a hunter. Let me say, too, that if you believe that Billy has multiple personalities, and I'm not sure if I do. In fact, I question that conclusion. If you believe that Billy has multiple personalities, let's say Billy suddenly comes back to himself and then sees that he has a gun on him. Wouldn't Billy then, when he's sane Billy, when he's himself, not an alter personality, wouldn't Billy then say, okay, I've got to get rid of this gun? This isn't me. What am I doing with the gun? It seems to me the minute you introduce things like a firearm into a multiple personality context, then more than one of the alter egos has to know that A, Billy wants to get a gun, has to participate in the acquisition of the firearm, and then wants the gun with him. I also have a problem with the type of gun it is. Right? Understand, this is the kind of gun that a person conceals. There are no stories of Billy walking down the street holding a gun in some kind of comatose or disoriented state, not realizing that he has out a firearm in public. It seems to me that if you have a gun and it's a concealed weapon, and you're claiming multiple personality disorder, you have to explain why none of the personalities got rid of the gun. How many of the personalities knew you had a gun? Well, Billy has a gun during the rapes on the Ohio State campus. Now, Billy's story to me about the rapes, where he also robs the women, right? These are burglaries / rapes. He robs the victims and he rapes the victims. Now, my understanding, and I'm a layperson, I'm not a medical doctor. My understanding of multiple personality disorder is that you switch into a different personality. You don't even remember the old personality while you're the new personality. Right? The different personalities might not know that the other personalities exist. Now, that's my understanding to healthcare professionals who are much more well-versed in multiple personality disorder. I hope you leave in the comment section of this video what's really going on. Whether the different personalities can actually work together. Because, and I find this unbelievable, astonishing, Billy claims that it's his alter ego, an aggressive male named Ragin, who actually robs the women. But then he claims, and they show you him in this different personality, that it's a lesbian alter ego, a woman named Adelana, who actually commits the sexual assaults. Folks, I don't get it. I simply don't get it. So Billy's in a car with a victim he's about to rob and rape. Then what? Rachel magically shows up, does the robbery. How does he then switch from Ragin into Adelana? But yet that's the story here. Not just multiple personalities, but multiple personalities working to commit different parts of criminal activity. So Ragin is the burglar. It's Adelana who's the rapist. Let's continue. Here again, and I fault Netflix and the people who put together this slickly produced 24 Faces of Billy Milligan. There's no conversation with the Ohio State rape victims. There isn't adequate investigation of their testimonies regarding whether, during this ordeal with Billy Milligan, they noticed two different personalities emerge. Understand, Billy on the show starts talking in Ragin's voice. Right? Ragin's voice, again, unmistakably male. Has an accent. Then he starts talking as the lesbian, Adelana. Right? This is under questioning from healthcare professionals. And he sounds different. Now, I'm guessing that the rape victims remember the ordeal. One wonders why on the show there isn't a question about whether or not during the rapes, Billy suddenly started acting like a woman with a woman's voice. There isn't any such presentation on the show. Folks, it's a hole in the show that is substantial. Just understand, Billy's not claiming that Ragin did the rapes. No, he's claiming his female persona, Adelana, did the rapes. Let me also say, too, Billy's a young man when he's arrested. Right? I think he does the Ohio State rapes at 22, and he's arrested at 23, somewhere in that range. So he's early 20s. It's fascinating that he decides to make the rapist a lesbian. Right? One wonders whether Billy, who in his early 20s was not a lawyer, he's not a lawyer now, thought that if he changed the gender of the rapist, it would somehow not be a rape. I find it striking that Billy, in talking to the doctors after he's arrested, decides to come up with a female gay rapist. That seems like a guy who, to me, is trying to find a way out of criminal culpability. So we get the multiple personality disorder. In other words, the cops have his fingerprints. Victims have identified him as their attacker. He says, it was my body, but it wasn't me. It was a different personality. Then we get it stretched even more. Right? I believe the thought process the guy has, and I'm just a lay third-party observer. I believe the thought process is, let me make the rapist a woman. Just in case the statute defines rape as a man raping a woman. Right? Maybe the female, other personality, might insulate me from criminal liability. Just a thought. Just understand, none of the rape victims talk about Billy becoming a woman during the assault, right? That's not presented on the 24 Faces of Billy Milligan. Let me say this too. I'm astonished that someone can claim multiple personality disorder and then be able to identify the personalities they have that did the crime. That seems odd to me. Now, as Billy talks with the doctors and the criminal investigators, some, not all, right? Some doctors believe he's just an acute schizophrenic, right? I'm not saying Billy's 100% healthy. The question for me is, does he suffer from multiple personality disorder? Or is he play acting here to support his insanity defense? Well, understand, there's no big consensus with the medical community, the members that examine him, right? Some feel he suffers from other problems, right? Schizophrenia coupled with narcissism. Of the healthcare professionals who decide that he has multiple personality disorder, they are able to detect 10 such personalities. Now keep in mind, the timing is crucial because Billy has a rape trial ahead of him for 3 rapes, 3 different women. He's already been convicted for rape in his past, right? That case is somewhat downplayed by the show. Apparently, there's no mention of multiple personality disorder in that earlier rape. So, if Billy doesn't reveal everything there is to reveal, if the examiners don't uncover everything that they need to uncover, Billy could lose his multiple rape trial and be sent away to prison for years. So there's an urgency, there's an incentive to get to the bottom of Billy's medical situation. So the conclusion by that portion of the medical community that believes he suffers from multiple personality disorder, right? Again, technically it's dissociative identity disorder, right? Is that Billy has 10 personalities. 10. Right? And the only way that this could somehow help Billy in his insanity defense is if it can be shown that Billy's base personality isn't responsible for the actions of some other personality he has. Right? So just to understand, at this urgent time before trial, the doctors who believe that he has multiple personality disorder come up with 10 personalities. 10. Now, Billy goes to trial and somehow is able to convince the court that he's insane because these other personalities did the 3 rapes at Ohio State. On the show, they show you Billy when he's leaving court. Now, this is very important to me. If you have 10 personalities, and if they randomly switch in and out, and let's make a big assumption that might not hold water. Let's say that the 10 personalities all get equal time. then Billy would have a 10% chance, as I see it, right? A 10% chance as he's leaving court and he's stopped by the press of being himself during that post-court interview. Let's just say, since Billy's not supposed to have control over which personality he is at a given moment in time, right? Even for activities that require planning, like taking a gun to a college campus, getting a co-ed alone, and then robbing and raping her, right? Since Billy supposedly, at least legally, doesn't have responsibility for crimes committed by different personalities, of which he has no knowledge. When Billy leaves court, I would say, given the number of personalities, 10, there's a very good chance, I'd say a greater than 50% chance, that when the press encounters Billy, Billy would be someone other than his base Billy personality. There's a chance that Billy might actually not know why he's down at court. Maybe he's one of the 10 who has no involvement whatsoever in any criminal activity and doesn't know what's going on. Understand, too, Billy has given these characters, these personalities, different voices. There's a possibility that as Billy's leaving the court, he might be a woman. He might be the lesbian who actually did the rapes, if you believe his story. Well, for me, not surprisingly, and I'm a skeptic of Billy's multiple personality claim, not surprisingly, when the press goes over to Billy, they have this on tape, and they start talking to Billy. Billy sounds sane. Right? Billy says that he understands many people might not believe him. Billy is Billy. He's not Ragin, he's not Adelana, he's not one of the other alter egos. Right? In the interview, he's sane. In the interview, in my opinion, he comes across as a guy who knows exactly why he's down at the courthouse, exactly what he did, and exactly how skeptics might be looking at him at this point when he has successfully been found to be insane and not criminally liable for multiple rapes. Right? Billy instead is assigned to a psychiatric institution where he spends the next decade. Now, let me be clear here. I believe Billy's multiple personality disorder claims, right? His claims, not necessarily the medical condition, but his claims are bogus. I believe this is a hoax. I believe Billy is just your typical narcissistic psychopath who lacks empathy for others. So understand, Billy is assigned to a psychiatric facility. And here's a shock. He then decides to write a book with an established author. Who saw that one coming? Right? Now keep in mind, this is a true story. He starts to write a book with an author. Now, it's interesting because understand, the reason why a book on Billy is interesting is because of the multiple personalities. Would it surprise you to know that it's at that stage, when Billy's writing a book with an author, that suddenly it is determined that Billy, who had 10 personalities before trial, now has an additional 14 personalities. That's how we come up with the name of the show, The 24 Faces of Billy Milligan. Right? So when his freedom